Today, we're going to talk about Chinese championships, some news from the Japanese championships, Greg Marsden's response to my rant about coaching salaries from last week, the Copra World Cup, and we have a mini commission. Plus, we're going to talk about fibroids, a Dos Santos movie, and major bars world and Olympic champion update. Today is May 19th, 2025, and welcome to the number one gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the balance beam situation. And let's first talk about the major news out of France about Nemour.
Yes. Moving gyms.
The Nouvelle République in France broke this news that Nemour is leaving. She's leaving her club to go to the Dijon club, which is a much better name, by the way.
Okay. So Jessica has spoken. This is a good move.
If it's delicious mustard, it's also a great place to train. So she's not going to be trained by Nadia Massé. And the two already worked together since Massé was a choreographer for her in the past. Now, a reminder about the history of this. There was the reason...
Yeah, how much time do we have? 9 hours to go through the history of this? Yeah.
Nemour left the country of France as a competitor and competed for Algeria because of a conflict where the French Federation wanted her to leave her coaches and go to a national training system in France, and she did not want to do that. And so now she has done it post-Olympics. So what do you think would cause a change now compared to when the Federation wanted her to do it?
I mean, it's really impossible to say because you're not in the gym, but time changes things, experiences change things. And I think in general, we should normalize that more in gymnastics, that like new voices, new input is a good thing. And, you know, most athletes across sports aren't coached by the same person their whole life and their whole career, whether they're on different teams or whether it's an individual sport. And that's, you know, without knowing her specific reasons or her saying like, here's the Kaylee Nemour tell-all, which, by the way, just, you know, on your own time, we'd love it. Without knowing, it can be just, you know, new voices are good. New input is good. I mean, we think about Simone. Mm-hmm. You know, we're an Aimee Boorman club around here. We'll talk about the book in a second. Then trains with Laurent and Cecile. It's a different voice, different input, different development in her gymnastics. It's not better or worse, but it's different, and you become a different and better gymnast just from different voices.
Yep. I'm so excited that we are getting a Daiane dos Santos movie. And if you don't know about Daiane dos Santos, she's from Brazil. She is the first world champion for Brazil. And she got it on floor, and she also does the front double Arabian. Front double Arabian is the only kind of Arabian you can do. So it's a double Arabian pike.
Double Arabian.
It's a pike double Arabian, and it was very close to being laid out. And she's just, you know, she did a little samba on the top of the podium when she won. It was a huge deal. And yeah, just totally love her. The movie is called The Girl Who Could Fly, which is obviously very creative. No one's ever heard of that in gymnastics. But it's being produced by Viola Davis's company, which is really exciting. This is according to Variety. They feel like she will do a Black woman's story justice. Viola Davis, I feel like, can do this. And I'm just happy it's her.
Who is on your like top 5 all-time gymnasts who need a biopic about them list? It's a very hard question, but I think, you know, if we're getting Daiane dos Santos biopic, we need more. We need many.
I want Milosevic, Romania.
Ooh, yeah. Good one.
There's so many Romanians, especially she was done so dirty by the Romanian Federation after they were like tricked into doing like a lingerie video when they thought they wouldn't be able to see it, and then they just got kicked out. And and she's so amazing, and I would love to see her biopic. I would love to see Horkina, but I would love for it to be told from not Horkina's well, it was Horkina's point of view. I just wanted to be like
remember when those like
fictional-
two like magician movies came out, like The Prestige and something else, and they were about the same thing and they came out at the same time? I want two Horkina movies to come out at the same time. One is like the Svetlana Horkina Productions Horkina story. She's perfect, and she's just like wearing a crown with a scepter the whole time, and everyone else is garbage. There's an international conspiracy against her. And then the other one is told by like a neutral observer who's like, okay, here's what was actually going on, and you can watch them back to back. That would be an excellent
I mean, my real dream has always been that there is a series like, okay, a long time ago, I don't remember how many years ago, ESPN did a fictionalized university, and it was about all the drama that happened on the university teams. And there was a gymnastics team. It was obviously Utah. But anyway, there was a gymnastics team and other sports, but it was like the real life stuff. Like, one was like drug addicted from painkillers, and one had like an abusive coach, and one had like, a coach that they were hooking up with or something. And like all of and I'm saying hooking up with because it was not seen as a negative thing at the time. But they canceled that show so fast because the NCAA was like, absolutely not. You cannot tell the true stories of what's going on in a fictionalized, serialized television show. So it had like 2 episodes, and that was I don't even know if you can find it anywhere anymore. My dream
removed from the internet.
Right. My dream is that we get to produce the real stories of gymnastics sports things happening. I mean, there's so many stories I could put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, it'll be a fictionalized place, and we'll tell all the stuff. That's my dream.
Oh, yeah. Or just a real place. And you make someone else produce it so that you don't get in trouble when someone sues.
That's what our documentary series is for. Speaking of crazy things, documenting crazy things, Becky Downie, Becky Downie, in her 30s, making Olympic teams, making team finals, incredible on bars, documentaries about her. She revealed that before Paris, she had a growth in her abdomen, and she was freaked out about it. She told her medical team, but no one else. She was able to get it investigated after Paris, and it turned out to be fibroids, and non-cancerous fibroids. These are huge. She did a big post about it, getting people information about them, documented her surgery. The thing that was crazy for me is how fast she has pictures of the fibroids that were removed too, and they are very large, which will surprise no one that has fibroids. And there's tons of them. It's like a cereal box of various sizes.
Oh, don't say cereal box.
That's what they look like.
Now I'm grossed out. They look like
because you're Captain Crunch and like
Pops
combined.
Gross.
Anyway, I'm just trying to describe what they look like. Well, anyway, she did it in black and white, which was she made it more palatable for all the people, I think, showing these fibroids. But what I messaged her about, and I was just like, I am so impressed that you got help so fast. Like, people in the US, especially Black women, have this condition for their entire lives, fighting to say they need help and don't get surgery. She found this before Paris, and she's already had surgery. It hasn't even been a year. I was like, what kind of magical system who are your doctors? Who believed you? How did this happen so fast for you? I'm just blown away about how fast she got treatment. And some people may be like, it took 9 months to have surgery or whatever it was. Yeah. Welcome to how Americans see the medical system. Like, it didn't take your entire lifetime. I'm so impressed. And she said that she was shocked to find out through this process how prominent this is, how often Black women have this, and she had no idea. And so I appreciate her using her platform to educate and also show, like, look, it is possible to get treatment in such a short amount of time compared to what you Americans are suffering with over there. That's my interjection. She didn't say that. I'm saying that. The other thing that, she's not competing at Euros also because of this, her recent surgery, or she's, not ready. She's also switching gym, but she made a point of saying, I'm not switching gyms. It has nothing to do with the gym. I'm very happy and grateful to this gym. I'm just not going to train here anymore. The most important thing that happened this week.
Okay.
Spencer.
Okay.
Japanese championships happened.
Mm.
Because, Japan, they like to choose their world teams 5 months ahead of world championships. So, and poor Daiki had to compete, even though, so we found out, according to the Olympic Channel's reporting, he has had basically a mystery sickness with flu-like symptoms for 2 weeks, and they haven't been able to figure out what it is, but he's still competing with a fever because he has to compete because they choose the team now if he wants to make it. Which, you know how I feel about this.
Yes, the history of the Japanese Federation is self-sabotage in their selection procedures.
Over and over and over. So, poor
Or
Daiki.
the rules, or, Miyata's not allowed to compete at the Olympics. There's always going to be something that It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe rewrite the selection procedures to have a Simone clause, which I feel like they've done before with, like, Kohei. But
Kohei had a Simone clause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daiki should have a Daiki clause.
He should. But I'm like 2 weeks with flu-like symptoms. I was like, oh, this would
then you get in trouble. Like, remember when Canada was going to write in the Ellie Black clause, and then everyone got mad?
Even Ellie was like, this isn't fair. I shouldn't just be able to walk, just like take a nap and then walk onto a team. But you know how I feel about people competing with fevers. It's very dangerous, but I understand he was under medical supervision and they all made a plan together and whatever. Now I wonder if he actually has mono, and they're like, cannot do gymnastics with mono. You are absolutely forbidden from doing gymnastics because if you land, and this is called the glandular fever in some countries. So if you land hard enough because it makes your internal organs swell up, then it can also cause a rupture of your organs. You need organs, especially your liver or your spleen. Your spleen, that's the one, because the spleen is cleaning things. So anyway, I of course did gymnastics when I had mono, and I could feel my organs hurting me, but I was too depressed not to do gymnastics. I was like, I can't stay home or I will die. So don't be like me, is what I'm saying. Also, I wasn't doing like high bar double flipping things where I could, I feel like I was safe. Anyway, don't listen to me. Don't do gymnastics with mono. The most important thing is that...
that wasn't the most important thing? Okay.
No. The most important thing is Sugihara, women's side, won the NHK Trophy. Their big, this is basically their world team trials. Won the all-around. Remember, this is 10 years since she won all-around. She's 25 now. And she said in interviews, she was like, I did not think I would win, 10 years after. I'm obsessed with her double. She has we can watch a little bit of her gymnastics, but I'm obsessed with her double Y turn on beam, which she has named after her. She was an alternate in Paris, but then didn't get to compete because of all the nonsense about they removed someone for the team, but then that person was removed for just, enjoying her life, dealing with stress. But since she wasn't sick, then Sugihara couldn't compete. So anyway, the most important thing about this competition is not the world team or the gymnastics. It's that Sugihara designed her own leotard. And let us now, if you're a visual listener, please enjoy this with us. She designed her own Leo, and this Leo is a singlet, and she was inspired by the German gymnast campaign, talking about how they were sexualized in photos. And so they created options to wear singlets and full-length bodysuits. And so you can do that in gymnastics. You can wear, there's many options. You don't have to wear a leotard. Can you describe this leotard for us?
Jean shorts. I can describe the leotard in 2 words, and it's jean shorts. It is a denim, small jean shorts inspired leotard, and, good for you, pushing the boundaries.
Totally pushing the boundaries with this.
There are so many NCAA teams that are so jealous of this idea that they didn't come up with this first. They're going to be so mad. We could have had a jean shorts. Except there's too much coverage for an NCAA team, so they'll be like, oh, this is, what am I, a Puritan? But, other than that, they're going to be super into it.
I mean, these jean shorts, complete with, they have belt and rivets and pockets, not real ones, but
not actually. Like
not
the imagery of it. Yeah.
Right. Also, the top of the Leo is a mini turtleneck 3/4 sleeve half shirt, which is what I always wear with my jean shorts. I love the and it's also like bedazzled. It looks like a leotard on the top, and then there's a nude portion in the middle, so it's a half shirt, but it's all one singlet. It's just made to look like a shirt, a crop top with jeans. I'm obsessed with this. Also, I can't wait. Like, speaking of teams that are going to do this, there's going to be a team. If Texas ever gets their shit together and actually starts another team besides Texas Women's University, shout out to you, educating women since before it was practically legal. I would love to see the Texas team do the singlet, like the full unitard version from ankles to wrists, but make it have boots and then nudie fabric, and then I don't know, whatever you wear, shorts and nudie fabric.
All I got from that was that you wanted them to be wearing boots and then be naked, and I feel like that's
what's it called? Like a nylon looking, skin colored see-through, that to shorts, and then whatever, like a team jersey as the top. A gymnastics jersey with their name on it. It's like, in my mind, it's tacky, but also I want to see it.
If someone did that, you would be like, this is the ugliest leotard I've ever seen. And it's your own idea.
Beyonce design it, it could be done. Like, there is a designer who could make this.
Yeah, she's up for it. Just
she's not
call
busy
Beyonce,
or anything.
And then she'll be like, yes, I want to do this random dumb thing.
Just for these gymnastics fans, let me loan you. I mean, I think it would depend on who's on the team. I mean, at this point, the way the NIL is going, they could pay Simone enough to come back and just show up at a meet, do a handspring vault. So before we talk about, Greg Marsden wrote a very thoughtful response to my rant about NCAA coaches and salaries. And we are also going to talk about Shawn Johnson's comments about leotards in a moment. But first, I want to give you guys some updates. So, number one, only like 50% of you who are watching this on the YouTubes actually subscribe. So please, or 45%, you know how I mix up the numbers, but it's only like half.
It's
so if you guys
2 or 40 or 75, something like that.
So if you could subscribe, that would be great, because I know you guys are doing it on podcasts, because we're always consistently ranked in the top of the gymnastics and the sports podcasts. So thank you so much for that. Also, replay of live show. If you want to know what happened at the Paris finals, and you want to know about all your Romanian Paris floor finals drama, and you want to know your Romanian heroes, how they were, and you want to know what it's like to train in Romania, and you want to learn more about who the new coaches at Simone's mom's gym, really. Simone trained there, but it's really Nelly and Ron's gym. WCC, you can get a replay ticket now for the live show, so that's still available. Also on sale now is The Balance, which is Aimee Boorman's memoir with, full disclosure, fact checker, and wanted to read you a portion of this.
So to give a little context, first of all, so this is after the criminal ex-doctor story broke about widespread abuse. Aimee was at Evo at that point and released a statement in support of the athletes who were speaking up and calling out the system of abuse and that kind of thing. And so here's an excerpt from the book about that. She says, "What I wasn't expecting when I wrote that statement was how few leaders would step forward. While not many coaches have been proactive in vocally advocating for change, I have used my public notoriety in interviews and online to share my views on how athletes deserve to be treated. I recognize it may have been easier for me to speak out because I had stepped away from the US elite system for a while and therefore carried less fear of retribution for my comments. But I also didn't have a problem standing up to Marta when I was in the system, long before Simone was a champion, and faced the retaliation that resulted. After I had published my statement on behalf of Evo, I constantly wondered when the chorus from others was going to arrive. And isn't that part of the problem? Courage is never required from a position of comfort."
If you want to read more,
or listen to Aimee actually do it and not me.
The audiobook. She reads the audiobook.
Call me. I'll read your gymnastics book. It might not be the way you want it, but I'll read it and I'll dictate your audiobook of your gymnastics book.
Dramatic Readings by Spencer is one of my dreams.
Yeah.
So the book is The Balance, My Years Coaching Simone Biles, available everywhere books are sold. If your bookstore or your library doesn't have it, ask for it. And if you want to know more about the book, downloads, contact Aimee for your speaking gig anywhere and everywhere, you can contact SoCalJournal.com.
SoCal Journo, not journal. Which is
Journo. Is that what I said? SoCal Journal. As in,
I just want to be clear because it kind of sounded like journal. And I didn't want people to go to the wrong website.
SoCal Journal. Yeah, because he's helping facilitate those things. Okay, let us discuss next our follow-up from last week's discussion. Greg Marsden had a very thoughtful response. So to recap what happened last week, the Crandall-House moved from Cal to Clemson. Their base salary over 5 years is $2.25 million without their bonuses.
Which is that's combining both of their salaries because they are married, but they both individually are employed with jobs.
I referenced Greg Marsden's post from in last week's episode about, and he titled it, "What does the future hold for NCAA gymnastics? What does it look like for the era of the revenue share and NIL?" And he had talked about how, now some schools' recruiting budgets are $300,000, and I was like, the Clemson's football coach has a $60 million payout, like just to leave if something happens, and like we need to aim higher.
$60 million payout does sound like something.
A buyout.
It sounds like a different thing. Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be coach here anymore? $60 million, please. And Cal and the Crandall-House had $1 million buyout at Cal. So, and I was like, we need to aim bigger. Let's not complain about the budgets. Like, you have to go for this like a football system. So Greg Marsden had a great response. Will you read his response?
Oh, it's very long. You want me to read the whole thing?
Yeah, I think it's worth reading.
Okay.
You can skip the part where he's being nice to me and go to my.
Oh, good, because that would make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. My purpose wasn't to sound the alarm over how much money is being spent on revenue sharing and NIL and recruiting, or to suggest that gymnastics shouldn't be aiming higher. Quite the opposite. I want this sport to grow, and I'm happy to see athletes have an opportunity to be compensated. But I also believe that growth should be thoughtful and sustainable. When I reference the range of $300,000 to $1 million, some programs are investing just to stay competitive with revenue sharing and guaranteed NIL to their recruits and roster. I wasn't expressing outrage, I was expressing concern. Not because it's inherently bad to spend that kind of money to pay for roster management, but because only a few programs can. I worry that in this new era of revenue sharing, NIL, and the transfer portal, we're unintentionally creating a system where only the wealthiest programs can truly compete, or maybe even exist long term. That doesn't make gymnastics stronger, it makes it more exclusive. My question was simple. What kind of revenue sharing and NIL money does it take to compete now, and who can realistically keep up? This is especially important to think about since there aren't that many NCAA women's gymnastics programs. Unlike women's basketball, volleyball, and softball, which have hundreds of institutions sponsoring them across all divisions, collegiate gymnastics is a sport with limited participation. That makes it especially vulnerable. If we raise the financial bar too high too quickly, without the sport growing proportionally, we risk pushing out the programs that can't keep up. Programs that are really important to the diversity, accessibility, and future of collegiate gymnastics. You mentioned that coaches from my generation hurt the sport by not demanding more, but I think that misses the context of our era. We weren't operating in today's landscape. We were fighting for basic visibility, respect, and opportunities, often from scratch. Every dollar we raised, every crowd we built, every meet we promoted laid the groundwork for what's happening now. It wasn't perfect, and of course we wanted more, but we weren't thinking small. We were building the runway, not flying the plane. Let's keep pushing gymnastics forward, but let's also make sure we're asking the hard questions, not just about how high we can climb, but whether those with passion, integrity, leadership, and the ability to develop athletes holistically have a ladder to get there.
I love his response because I think what I was trying to say in my response last week was like, I'm not talking about the Greg Marsdens of the world because we wouldn't be where we are as a sport without the Greg Marsdens and Sarahs and Suzannes of the world who literally built, as he's saying, the runway. so that everyone can get where they are now. I really appreciate his point about how gymnastics is basically kind of a small sport in the landscape of NCAA sports, and how it's like, if we go too hard, you'll break the whole thing. And we hear this a lot. Like every time we talk about the problems with judging and regulating judging, then so many coaches from smaller schools are like, if we have to pay the judges more, or if we have to pay for oversight for the judges, we won't be able to afford this at all. Like they barely pay for judges' travel, in my opinion, as it is. They're paid, but I think not in the way they should be. So I really appreciate that point. And I've been playing a Sims-like build a city simulator, because I don't like the Sims, because you can't even start with green technology. What is this? You have to start as like a eco-terrorist to play that game and then build things. Anyway, so Sims people,
is there a point?
Come for
are
me.
we getting around?
What I'm saying is, I have been playing this game, and you can't just start with $1 billion and then go the way you want. You have to earn it and make mistakes and build things slowly. Like no one just gets handed the money. I know. This is why we always say
don't we play games for diversions? Here's a game where you have to like pay your taxes.
Rude. I'm trying to create a utopia where I'm the dictator and I do all the right things for my people. Obviously, it's fine. And the world doesn't work like that. It does not. And so I really I understand that, like, if you go too hard, you will break your economy and you will not have an economy anymore. So that point is very well taken. And I really appreciate that, like, all the people that set the groundwork built it to where it can be, and none of the people that are running it now. I think my point was more like, if we, meaning gymnastics, if we don't think about the level in terms of totally obtainable and realistic football salaries for the gymnasts and the coaches, then it'll never get to that point. And so that's kind of the thing I was trying to say. And I also feel like it already exists. Like what he's saying, like only the big money schools can compete. And I'm like, it's kind of already like that. But then again, you see, like, back in the day, there were schools that were getting the really good recruits, even though they didn't have the fanciest gyms and all the money, where now I feel like you really have to all those schools are negotiating with the athletes with NIL.
And I think that gets at the anxiety about the tremendous, internal anxiety of college gymnastics about where is this going?
Yeah. My problem always with NCAA gymnastics is, like, there are coaches who only do for themselves without caring about what the ripple effect is for the entire system. And I really appreciate that Greg Marsden that's his primary concern. He's like, if we do this, how does it affect the entire system? Where there are definitely coaches that are just like, break everything as long as my team wins. I don't care about accountability at all. And so that point is very well taken. And I really appreciated this letter. Is there anything you want to add to this, or you have thoughts on this?
Not particularly, but it led me to think about other conversations that you and I were both having at NCAA Nationals that I think are people who disagree with our general approach to compensation of athletes, which I think we both agree that it's like, get that money as our base point. Number one, like,
most important thing.
If there's money to be get that money.
Get it.
But a well-taken point of disagreement is anxiety about, there are gymnasts, especially from those coaches who coach a lot of elites and have elites, but it doesn't have to be elites. Gyms who are coming from top, like the most intense club environments, doesn't have to be elite, who've spent their lives to the age of 18. It's only gymnastics, and your worth as a person is completely tied to gymnastics, and how difficult it can be to coach them, to get them to a mental place where you are worth the same as a person, whether you get a 10 or a 0, and you have a lot to offer the world, and gymnastics is part of your life and it's important to your life, but it's not the only thing. And that the infusion of money just makes it harder to do that because you are literally saying your worth with a specific dollar value is as a gymnast. Now, I would say that's the world. That's a capitalist system. That's your job and you get paid and everyone's kind of in that situation. And it can be very unhealthy, but that's sort of the world. But that is part and parcel to the anxiety about the just general money anxiety about college gymnastics. It's the survival of the programs, and it's also what it's doing to the athletes mentally. So I still feel like get that money, but it is point taken that it can create an even more unhealthy environment.
Yeah.
That needs to be navigated.
Yeah.
And it's also something that's worth, just at least injecting into the conversation that I don't think we talk about a lot.
Yeah, it is. And it is really hard to say, like, but I mean, it's just a higher level of the money conversation, because you're already like, I want you, your education matters. You as a person matters, but also we're paying you $30,000 to $60,000 a year via a scholarship to do gymnastics. But that means you have to actually do gymnastics. But it's just adding layers onto that. So I feel like if you don't have control of that conversation already, it's going to be a nightmare with the add-ons that people are asking for. Okay, let's discuss Chinese championships, which basically
I would love to discuss Chinese championships.
The theme of this meet for me was, if you don't have a 6'8" it's over for you. Goodbye.
On beam. I mean, imagine if you had a 6'8" on floor.
Yeah. A 6'8" on beam. Obviously, it's Chinese championships. All I want to talk about is beam.
Yeah.
I know there's other events, but...
To clarify, as we record this right now, we are middle of Chinese championships. Yeah. So we've had qualification and provincial team final. We have not yet had all-around final or event finals, which is kind of the big stuff. So put a pin in it, TBD, but there's still a lot to talk about already. But we will have to... We're off next week, and then it's going to be European Championships. So remind us to do some behind the scenes, really get into the beam final, because it's the most important day of the entire year, the Chinese Championships beam final. So, we need to spend some time with it. Don't let us forget, it's your responsibility and not ours. It's your fault, not ours, is what I'm saying.
But so far in the competition.
Yes. Okay.
All around.
Big news. Lots of developments. All around leader in qualification. Kind of an upset. I thought Oyu Shan was going to win. Oyu Shan, veteran of the team at this point, 2-time Olympian, stalwart, often always on teams. She did not win the all-around in qualification. Zheng Qingying did. And so if you remember Zheng Qingying from the 2023 Worlds team for China, the big scoring controversy on beam with her sideways back dive, which then she was over the beam and kind of had to grab it under. And it was like, is this being evaluated consistently? Is this too harsh for not actually a fall? What's going on? So that was a big thing. We felt like, well, what we felt is it's so cool that it was, Jessica's sentiment was it's so cool, I don't care. I want to encourage this because it is cool and done well and whatever.
Who cares if you catch with your ribs and not your hands?
Your ribs and you grab under the beam to pull yourself back up. We don't care. So happy she was struggling with injuries. Happy to see her back hitting and that sideways back dive still in her beam routine, and she's scoring very well with it. So that was really gratifying. Very exciting to see her top the leaderboard at the end of qualification. At least all around final hasn't happened yet. We'll see what happens there. But that was item one. Very exciting to see in the all around. But I will say, best thing about qualifications, number one, vault, which you wouldn't have expected. Liu Jinru, who was on the 2018 Chinese Worlds team in Doha, made the vault final. I haven't seen her compete in a quad at this point, almost a quad. Vaults, hits a handspring Rudy, stuck. I mean, form, but we're not making
it's more like a bent circle and not a straight cylinder twisting.
We're taking what we can get. We're taking what we can get. It's a handspring Rudy that was completed for credit, and she stuck it, and a Souk double full as her two vaults. So first of all, I'm like, go to Worlds. I don't know what your intentions are at this point of your career, but go to Worlds, because this year on vault, get that medal. With handspring Rudy and a Souk double full, get that medal. So that was very exciting. We love a veteran. We love a veteran comeback, and I was happy to see that.
We love especially like, I mean, we're waiting for the days of Chung to return.
You want Chung Fei to come back?
I just want like a,
yeah,
mid-20s, early 30s vaulter. The power days. Yes, exactly.
Liu Jinru is here for you.
Right. I'm like, yes. And it's individual worlds here. You should be sending the best vaulter you have, the best on each event, which you can't do because they're not allowed to pick up people.
This is a conversation we need to have, because I think it's going to get very interesting about priorities and how you select the Chinese team for an individual championship. Because you have so many beamers that you could send who could win. But are you like over prioritizing beam at the expense of other events, or is it worth it to over prioritize beam? Because then you have, like event finalists in a spare, and these are your best people anyway, but you only have a certain number of people you can take. So I think that's going to get very interesting.
If you're China, you always send your best beamers because
Well, yeah, but how many?
Just send a whole beam. Well, beam and bar.
Whole team of beam.
Don't ignore the other events. Just send a whole team of beam and bar specialists, which they don't get to send very many people, so you can't do that. But that's what I would do.
I mean, you could send like 4 beamers.
Yeah, which is the right thing to do.
But like, what about Liu Jinru? What about other people? I think it's tough to. I think it's tough to put together a Chinese team this year with prioritizing the events you want to prioritize, which we'll get into because we need to talk about beam. I mean, it's beam. It's Chinese championships. Yeah. We need to talk about beam. We need to talk about how Zhou Yaqing got a 15 in the team final.
Exactly.
That's mostly what I need to talk about.
Yes. Let's look at this routine. I'm so freaking ridiculously excited about. And she also got a 6.8D, but her front handspring front to a split jump, which wasn't that good, but that front handspring front is so good. I mean,
you gotta have a front handspring front. These are the rules. Gotta have it.
Yeah, that's how you get my favorite routine. Also, connect 3 leap series into their Corbett for the mega bonus, and that's what I like to see. If it's China that's doing it.
And only if, because otherwise it's going to be ugly. Yeah.
And also the side flip to tuck full turn connected you guys, that is the hardest thing to do, because it means she's landing her side flip on her toes, which gives you less foot to land on. More control, but less foot area. Jump full turn is already, and she's doing it from side. It's a side flip. So she's facing the wall. It's not like she could do a full turn and look at the beam and then focus on the beam again. She's just looking at empty space in the world. Might as well be a video of a galaxy, stars, and then she lands back on the beam. And her dismount, oh my God. That's so good.
Are you excited? Are you excited about it?
I'm obsessed with her.
If you were not watching, Jessica kind of fainted. Yeah. A semi-faint, a half faint.
I want to watch Wang Zhiyi's second place 6.8D.
Yes, so junior. Wang Zhiyi.
Junior.
Yeah.
You got to remember, in China, the juniors are allowed to compete. Everybody competes together. Mm-hmm. She starts with a freaking side chest roll on to a shoulder roll. If you start with 2 connected rolls, it's already my favorite routine ever. Then she has her round off layout, which is a legit E laid out all the way through. It's so good.
Waiting on the beam event final. Very excited about that. So excited about beam. Of note on beam. So Chu Chi-yun, Olympic silver medalist on bars, is competing here. There was some question. She is not at 100%. There was some question as to whether she was even going to compete at this championship. She competed, got a super high score on floor for the Chinese championships in the team final. So things are going fine, but she's not doing full difficulty on beam. She fell on her double pike in qualification. So not at full strength, but as we know, when she is at full strength, her beam can score very well. It's maybe not the most consistent, but it can get a huge score. And she's the Olympic silver medalist on bar. So looking ahead toward Worlds, it's kind of a put a pin in that one because she has time. She has time to get back to full strength, and I would want her on a Chinese Worlds team covering many events. Probably their best all-around score if she's back. So that's also someone to keep in mind. Then you have to factor in, Yang Fanyue, who we have talked about this year. So she is the second highest bars score behind Kaylee Nemour. This year, she got the layout Jaeger full twist named after herself. So she'll certainly be an option as a bars specialist for a world's team, someone to keep in mind. We had a very interesting question on Behind the Scenes this past week about her dismount and what dismounts she could learn and whether that's the best option. That's also someone worth talking about. And maybe the thing I'm most interested in seeing for the remainder of the Chinese championship. So Zhang Yihan on the Olympic team made the Olympic bars final. She has also a Souk double full on vault, and that is going to be very important for, you know, thinking forward Chinese teams. Like, she has a competitive vault for a team final that isn't like a 12-9 or a 13-0, and you're basically losing a fall compared to the other teams every time someone goes on vault, and it makes it very difficult to contend. She has a really important vault. She's been in an Olympic bars final, and in podium training, she showed a double-double tuck on floor, a silly vash. Didn't do it in the first two phases of the competition. Did a full
But it's really good.
If she but like maybe hoping, expecting that she'll add it for the event finals, maybe the all around, like we'll see. But that is a potential game changer in terms of China's prospects on floor this quad. Also, are you taking a floor worker to Worlds as for your individuals? Are you filling that spot? Or are you just like, let's add in another beam and we'll just ignore floor? But it could be significant for that decision. Speaking of people who have been on Chinese teams for floor before, though, I want to talk about Oyu Shan.
Yes.
Because she's here, did fine, but is still an extremely talented gymnast, has been on a billion teams. I'm interested to where she fits on the team and watching that moving forward at this competition and future competitions, and also how she's basically the queen of the sideline at this point now and is like the queen of sideline comedy.
Yes. Which we have to show. This is her looking at her phone and her I don't describe this. She's looking at her phone. Other people are poking her, trying to talk to her. And she is just wiggling away. And then when her teammate won't let her leave her alone, she goes after her like she's playfully going to slap her. Yeah, but she will not take her eyes off of her phone. We all know somebody like that. And, you know.
Yeah, I think we've learned that we need an Oyu Shan cam inset.
Yes.
Where it's just like, this is what we want to see. Also, you know, a beam routine, but I would also like to see just what Oyu Shan is up to at any given moment.
In an interview in the post-meet on Chinese TV, they asked her what was she looking at on her phone, and she was like, oh, I'm just looking at, you know, whatever's on my For You page, because she doesn't go on Weibo because she has too many haters on there. How dare you ever be a hater of Oyu Shan? How dare you? This is how I feel about every gymnast. You shut it, people. But yeah, good for her. She's just like, yeah, I'm distracting myself with cat videos, obviously. In other news, we had the Copra World Cup. Yeah. And
that's what we have to say about it. But I actually do have a rant. I do have a rant about the Copra World Cup that's more important than any of the gymnastics we saw, because the mascot situation is out of control, Jessica.
I'm obsessed with the mascot. The mascot is my highlight of the meet. I have two other things, but
first of all, this mascot. There were two mascots. There was a big dog with its mouth hanging open like a buffoon and a heart on its heart, wiggling, jiggling around all over the place, and I did not care about that. And then there was this cat tiger thing that was like doing an interpretive dance in the background of the beam routines and pulling focus from the gymnasts, and I did not care for that behavior. Get that monster out of here. If I see that cat tiger thing again, I'm gonna just like kill it. I did not like that. I don't want to see it around. It was ruining everything, and I hate it.
I do not appreciate that it was like drawing focus from the gymnasts. Like, you should not be doing any business. But I did like that it was dancing with the floor music. That I enjoyed. Also, I didn't count that dog because I was like, obviously you're a dog. You don't belong in a gymnastics meet. You can't do gymnastics. And also the dog was clearly a ripoff of like the Family Guy dog character. So I was like, this must be from a sponsor or something. Like, I don't know. I just didn't count it as a mascot. I was like, oh, I don't know what it's doing here. But anyway, I just totally ignored it because I was like, the cat is obviously the star of the show. But the most important thing that happened at this World Cup, I think, is that we finally, the era has arrived of connecting side rolls to kip springs to head springs to prove that you're involving all the body parts. Theme era.
Good.
This is what we're in on floor. If this floor final, if you didn't have a kip, which is like, you lay on your back and you do like a V sit up to your feet, that's a kip on the ground. So if you didn't have a kip spring or a head spring forward or backwards onto a knee or somewhere, like, I don't even know what you're doing with your life. Everybody was doing a leap into a roll on their side, into another spring, backward, forward. I'm obsessed with it. I totally loved it. The results of this, we should probably tell you.
Yeah. Teja Belak of Slovenia won vault. Not a surprise. I think she was the favorite going in. Lucia Hribar of Slovenia won bars with a fall. So that's a stellar move. That's a move of dominance. Georgia May Fenton won beam. And Julia Coutinho of Brazil won floor.
I was super happy for Georgia May Fenton, British gymnast. She's been around forever. I think we first covered her in like 2015, 2017 Worlds. She's just so beautiful to watch. Double turn on beam. She almost came off, but we love a double turn. If you're doing a double turn on beam, you're already, it's practically like connecting two rolls on beam for me. So I just so happy because she's been around for so long. Her gymnastics is so beautiful, and for her to finally come out with a win on beam. It's my happiness meter is elevated.
Another highlight for me. So if you watched the World Feed commentary, Danusha Francis was doing the commentary. And during the men's balance positions and scales on floor, she was like, amazing flexibility being shown here. And I'm like, that's very sweet of you, Danusha, because you could also be like, this is garbage. Have you seen me?
I offer a class on flexibility. Maybe these men should take it.
Can you see how I would do a scale and then call me when it looks like that? But she was very professional about it. And I felt like it was a missed opportunity to be totally unprofessional about it.
Yeah. Oh my God,
and be like, mine would have been better / would be better right now. I'm doing it right now, and it's 10 million times better.
The amount of men that are just doing a stand on one leg and make yourself into a lever as a scale and can't do it. Like, you guys. I know it is hard to hold a scale on the floor, though. This is it, because it's mushy. And doing a scale is easier on beam. That's solid. But still, you're doing like the most basic baby yoga pose where you're making yourself into a T shape. Come on, gentlemen. Let's put a little more effort into this. Also, just do it at the very beginning of your routine so that you're not tired, because clearly you're too tired to do a scale.
But sometimes it is like your man wipe replacement if you're doing a really easy one, because you need to breathe a lot.
Yeah, but like, then make sure you practice your scale after your cardio.
Get that back leg up. Get that back leg up.
Oh, love of. All right. I want to tell you guys about something really exciting that has happened, because this does not happen often, and it's really a huge deal. And that is that got a message from Gina Paulus, who's the owner of Just Like a Fine Wine Adult Gymnastics Facebook group, which has thousands of people on it. So if you have you missed the 12 years coming up of us talking, or 11 years going on 12 of us talking about adult gymnastics and how it's the greatest thing ever and you should totally do it and it will heal all of your relationship with your body and gymnastics forever. Plus you could just do it for fitness and you don't even have to have ever done gymnastics. I would like to introduce you to the original adult gymnastics camp that's held in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Every summer, it was the original, very first one ever. They have a couple of spots open because of some athlete withdrawals, which never happens. Usually this sells out 9 months in advance. It's very unusual. So if you want an opportunity to get in, or you're within driving distance of New Hampshire, you want to fly there and stay, you can do it. Every year they have been an international event, you guys. So hang out with your people from around the world. who love adult gymnastics as much as you do. And they have a ratio of 6 athletes to 1 coach, which is great. And for adult gymnastics, I feel like that's the minimum that you absolutely have to have. So you get lots of personal attention, you get the spotting you need. They have contests, they have social events. Normally they have like a dinner where like hang out and, all watch gymnastics together. They have free photography and videography covering the event. So you can go back and watch and show it off later, to your great grandkids and be like, I'm a badass still doing gymnastics. Look at me doing this 30 years ago. So you can go to adult-gymnastics.com for more info and get your info and register there. But I have to emphasize, it's so rare that there are spots open for this camp. Like, it has sold out from the beginning. And also don't worry about how old you are or how young you are to go to this camp. The oldest athlete has been 71 at this camp. So if you're 72, you can help break the record. So they also have total beginner stuff and new training. It's super fun. So if you want to check out adult gymnastics, you haven't done it yet, I highly recommend. This is the time. adult-gymnastics.com. All right. Gymternet news.
Okay, let me know. What's going on?
If you're a Club Gym Nerd member, you have known this for weeks, that Morgan Price is going to Arkansas. We told you this several weeks ago. Now she confirmed that she is transferring to Arkansas, so she will be there with her sister. Morgan Price, of course, has been at Fisk and is a 2-time Club Gymnastics college champion. More gymnasts moving. Can you tell us about these, Spencer?
Yeah, so we had some more gymnasts who were previously committed to Cal who are now going with the head coaches to Clemson. So Morgan Ryle and Sydney Snyder are doing that. Your thoughts, Jessica? Do you have thoughts, reactions, reflections? Just reinforcing that, oftentimes gymnasts will pick for a school for the coach.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think so.
If you have a connection, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alexis Saronchik is going from Georgia to Maryland. Molly Brinkman changed her commitment from Clemson to LSU. This was before the Crandall-Howells were hired, but that was fairly recently that happened.
New person competing for elite from NCAA going in. So Kaya Tanskinen from Mizzou. She has competed for Finland before, hasn't she?
For several years. Yes.
So she's going back to competing for Finland.
Continuing more Finland.
She never left
Yeah.
Finland competing, but she's doing it again. 2025 Euros, she will be competing there. So that's exciting. I always love the continuing. This doesn't have to be the end. Keep your career up. Keep going. Jordan Bowers was named the Honda Award recipient for gymnastics. So congratulations to Jordan Bowers, bazillion-time winner of all the things at NCAA from Oklahoma, including all around. Sports Illustrated models were revealed this. The Sports Illustrated, there's they have models and then they have the athletes, which are the main thing. You want to infuse body pride, then visit the athlete section of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Suni Lee is in it, displaying her childhood burn scar from a rogue candle incident proudly. Olivia Dunn is on there. And she has been in before. Jordan Childs is there with all of her muscles, all of them showing off their gymnastics muscles. Check it out. Also, my favorite, Ilona Maher from the Rugbies is in it again, which she's basically the only person I've ever watched on Dancing with the Stars every week. I mean, I've checked in on people. I checked in on Reese. I checked in on Nastia. There are some things, but Ilona Maher I had to see every single week. Paul Judah, Olympian, and also Michigan. He is the Grand Marshal for the Detroit Grand Prix, which is a car racing thing, I believe.
Oh, that's a shame. But, what's the costume for a Grand Marshal? That's what I want to know. Is there a sash? Is there a crown? Is there a scepter? These are the important questions, because Paul Judah needs a scepter.
He does. Do you get to wear a fancy hat like they do in the horse racing?
I mean, events? If you don't, he should.
A fascinator? I would like that.
Yeah.
International Gymnastics magazine has their own Hall of Fame. And they have did their ceremony for inducting new members. So the new members are Beth Tweddle, who, like any true gymnast, showed up, 15 years after retirement in a boot. So she's doing, she's representing for gymnasts every year.
Yeah.
Andreas Wecker, Germany, Catalina Penor, of course, Beam Dominatrix, and Pulsert, who has been the publisher of International Gymnast Magazine for forever and was also a
Did he just
coach.
put himself in the Hall of Fame?
No, I believe there's a board that
there's
votes.
a board. Because I would be like, if you could put yourself in the Hall of Fame, you should have done it years ago.
There is a he was also the coach of the 1980 Olympic team, or one of the coaches, and he also started the Oklahoma gymnastics program, like both the men's and the women's. I think he was like a math teacher and then went into gymnastics, which there is a definite math teacher crossover with gymnastics, let me tell you.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So, and he has contributed so much to the sport. I mean, it's totally makes sense that he would be inducted. So congratulations to all of them. Pauline Schaefer-Betz of Germany had hip surgery, and now she still says her goal is LA 2028. So might not be competing at Euros, but don't count her out. Before we get to our mini commission, I want to talk about what happened on the socials this week, because you guys,
okay,
I'm obsessed. First of all, Frederick Richard went to China. He trained with the Chinese men, and he did this really cute thing where he would ask people, a Chinese phrase, and then he would say it. And if he said it, I can't really tell if he said it right or wrong. He had to do a backflip. The thing about this is I love that he's doing this and he's always keeping himself in the conversation.
It's called high five diplomacy.
Did you catch this conversation with Shawn Johnson and her husband about leotards?
I did not. That's why we do this section, because I don't do the socials, and then you tell me what happened, so I don't have to be on them. And I sleep like a baby.
So here's her husband asking a question from a listener.
You have to change women's leotards in gymnastics. They're pretty revealing and can be distracting.
That's your problem, not theirs. Thank you. Move on.
Oh, interesting.
I think leotards are incredibly functional for gymnastics. And they're no different than a Speedo swimsuit that someone's wearing. That is your problem, no one else's.
Wow.
Also, the laws in gymnastics clearly state that gymnasts can wear unitards if they would like. But do you know why they're not? And there are girls wearing unitards in competition. That question makes me mad.
I've never heard you talk about this.
It's just ridiculous. It's like, why isn't someone standing up to change it? I don't think I've heard any gymnast ever have an issue with it. And it's too distracting for someone to watch. That is 100% their fault.
Yep. I love this conversation. And the fact that I love that she calls it the laws of gymnastics too, which obviously we should all refer to the FIG rules as the laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can compete in a singlet. You can compete in a unitard. You can compete in a leotard. Yeah. The men are not allowed to do that. Really, we should feel bad for them that they can't be like wrestlers and just wear a singlet and be like Sugihara, who competed in her singlet. The other thing that made me laugh this week was there was an award ceremony that Suni was at, and she was talking to Chloe Kim, who's an Olympic snowboarder. So Chloe Kim is like, you'd be so good at my sport. You should totally try my sport. And Suni's like, no, absolutely not. I'm terrible. I tried. All I did was fall the entire. No, it's you guys are crazy. You do flips on snow. Absolutely not. And I was like, yes.
Yes, Suni, that's the correct opinion. Suni is correct.
Just hell no to snowboarding. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing about snowboarding. Like, everybody that snowboards, like, you start by just falling over for, the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then you get it. But this is how it is when you learn new things. I mean, some people might fall over the whole day, but do you not remember being a kid? You also probably fell over a lot until you got it down.
How dare you?
I've never
fallen.
Never fallen snowboarding?
I've never snowboarded. Can you imagine?
I can, Spencer.
I don't mess with snow sports.
Why?
Because I don't want to. It's cold and I don't want to.
I like
I've
snow.
never had
snow sport.
any interest in doing any snow sport ever.
I used to be in a ski club, and on
Whoa.
Saturdays, the days
Wow.
before gymnastics was on Saturdays, we would go for the day. There was like a big bus, and you went with a bunch of kids, and we, went. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and then we'd ski all day, and then get on the bus, fall asleep, get home. I slept so hard. We had fun. It was the days though that like snowboarding was still not allowed really on with skiing. It was like the classist discrimination, like with skateboarders had too. So every once in a while you'd see someone with a mohawk and just like combat pants and a snowboard going down, and they get like chased out. Like it was so ridiculous. Anyway.
Club Gym Nerd. Get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, and extra podcast every week, athlete dossiers, code guides, commission your own segments of the show. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at GymCastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
So we did a mulligan last week on this mini commission about civil rights attacks on the NCAA from World Champion Club member, Gymnastics fan. So could you reread this, and
Sure.
I shall commence the do-over.
We are experiencing the spread of laws in the US that promote sexism, homophobia, transphobia, etc., in addition to a lack of accountability for those who promote racism, violence, etc. What is the likelihood that if an NCAA team refused to travel somewhere, the championship might move? Could the athletes unionize as a team, or does it have to be an entire school's athletes? I know not all athletes have the same core beliefs, so that would create more challenges, but could the progressive athletes create change?
So, to discuss this, let's go back in time and look at things that have worked in history and how they've worked. So, the successful example with the NCAA, we go back to the North Carolina bathroom bills in 2016, where the NCAA moved 7 championships out of the state over fairness and inclusion. And the NCAA Board of Governors said, quote, because of the cumulative action taken by the state concerning civil rights protections. So that worked. And there was a lot of economic pressure going after sponsors. Another, so that was like the one time they actually moved it. That is a really great example. There's other examples of people who contributed to the conversation that affected the greater culture. So like Kaepernick, who was an NFL quarterback, he was just sitting on the bench during the national anthem to protest murders of Black Americans and the lack of accountability by the people who murdered them or the police. And then he talked to a teammate who was a veteran, and he was the one that suggested, could you show respect by kneeling? You will be protesting, but kneeling, it can show a sign of respect as well, especially to me as a veteran. So he did that, and his teammates supported him. So that's where the kneeling comes from. And the NFL eventually pledged $250 million to combat systemic racism. And this is a lot of what Kaepernick has credited with propelling part of the Black Lives Matter movement, which spread to all sports around the world. Then we have another one that I think is one of the most effective boycotts. Do you remember the sports boycott of South Africa?
No, I don't personally remember it, but I do know it.
I forgot about this. So this is called the Springbok boycott. Springboks, I guess, because it's a weird Afrikaans word. And basically in the 70s and 80s, all sports boycotted having any championships, any events in South Africa because of apartheid, which was legal racist segregation of white people and Black people in the country. And yeah, that was major. And there were many boycotts and economic sanctions, but that finally worked. And it didn't just take that. It took many, many, many things, which is always how you have to do it. Then I remember seeing this video in Iran of women happily cheering in the stands at a soccer match. And I didn't realize what led to that. I just saw the story that was like women allowed to watch soccer. And I was like, what the fuck? Women are allowed to watch a sport in this country? What is happening? So basically there was, women weren't allowed to into the stadiums for the big matches. And in 2019, Sahar Hudyari set herself on fire and died in protest of being sentenced to prison for watching a soccer game. When she did that, FIFA, who are like the FIG of soccer, pressured Iran to allow women into stadiums, and then Iran started letting a limited amount of women in. So it wasn't like all the women that can go, but and I think some other countries have had this where they have a women's game night where it's all women, and they have like women's sections, but that is a big change. The Premier Leagues, which is a soccer league system in, is it all of Europe?
I just would
England?
love to hear you describe this.
It's a big soccer league. It's like all the money.
The Premier League is the top division of English football. Soccer.
English, yes. Sorry, it's not worldwide. It's just
I mean,
so,
like other countries have them, but like in Germany, it's the Bundesliga, etc.
Yeah. Well, the Bundesliga is not private.
Just yeah,
it's
but
federal.
I'm saying that's the top division in Germany.
Yes. Okay. But Premier League is pro soccer. Yeah. So, but anywho, now because of athletes talking about this and various protests, now there's a 3-step process to a referee being able to, if the first two steps are exhausted and racism from the fans doesn't stop, then the referee can say, we're done with this match. I'm canceling the match. The first step is like you pause and make an announcement, be like, racist, shut up. Part 2 is they send the teams into the locker room, make another announcement like, shut up. If you keep being racist, we won't play. They come out again. The third step is if the racism continues, the referee can use their discretion to be like, F you, you didn't earn the right because you can't control your disgusting, gross fans. The other thing is when there was the Egyptian revolution, soccer fans, who are called the ultras, they organized to help oust the president because, soccer fans are very organized. They have whole dances. They're like Swiss gymnastics fans and Utah, where they practice. They have dances and they practice things and they all stand up and they have cowbells and all the stuff. So these are all examples of things that have worked. Now, my question for you, based on our commissioner's inquiry.
The question in the commission.
What is the likelihood that the action by athletes could lead to the NCAA boycotting certain states like they did with North Carolina?
I think it is unlikely unless it is large in the number of athletes, the mass of athletes. Like, I think it would take, if we're going specifically like gymnastics, I think it would take a unified front of athletes saying we're not going to do this would force the NCAA to make a change, but especially the current era of the NCAA would be very intractable unless there was a tremendous amount of pressure, is kind of what I think about the likelihood of that.
Yep.
And it would have to be across schools, many different schools.
Yep. I agree with that. There has to be gymnasts gymnasts that have good connections with a bunch of other, all these gymnasts know each other. Like when you go to NCAA championships, they've all been training.
Or enemies.
I don't know, but that's our favorite part. But they've all been training or going to camp together since they were little. Like they all know each other. So those gymnasts coming together and be like, hey, we want to not give economic power to states that don't support us in like reproductive rights, like a very basic one, but there's so many things that you could go after in these states that are decreasing civil rights of all their citizens. So and non-citizens. But I think they would have to there's a couple things they could use. They could threaten to transfer. They can not commit to schools in states that have, discriminatory laws. Walk out mid-meet, which the WNBA has done. But if you do that, you have to make a statement. You have to have strategic partnerships with media and be like, this is why we're doing that, but something that gets a whole lot of media attention. So we have some ideas.
And this gets to the point of, and one of the questions in the commission, and there are lawsuits, challenges to this going on right now, so it's very much in flux about whether the college athletes are employees and could therefore unionize if they're considered to be employees, because you can't if you're not an employee, but you don't necessarily. So that's different than something like a professional sports league that would have a players union that works on their behalf for this kind of thing. But it doesn't mean you can't collectively act even if you are not in a union and get together and still do something. So that's kind of where they'd have to go.
The NLRB left the question open about unionization, but they did not make a decision. They heard the Northwestern football case and then just left it. But there are so many student organizations, like all the schools are all constantly PRing, like, this gymnast is part of the blah 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 organization. Yes, inter college, organizations, associations. There is nothing stopping gymnasts from having. We are the College Gymnastics Association. Our goal is to make sure we don't give any economic growth to states that have these laws in place. And the ways that you could go after that is you target donors, collective sponsors who are advertising in those states. We won't buy your products. There's also like a boycott of tickets. You could be like, no one's going to buy tickets if the championships are held in a state that, won't allow, for example, in Georgia right now, a woman in a coma who is brain dead to die peacefully. They want to keep her alive for a fetus as an incubator. But I think I think association like that actually could be very powerful, especially if you have a strategic partner. Like if Nike is not a sponsor, but they're like, we'll sponsor NCAA championships if you take it out of Texas, where all of these civil rights are being attacked. And you get gymnastics fans not to buy. Like the Target boycott is going very well. Target's foot traffic is way down. Like that, this economic impacts are great. But let's talk about our ideas for collective symbolic protests. So you have to, associate, make a plan, get your ducks in a row, have a statement, make a strategic partnership. You release a press release, or when you do this, you designate someone on each team to give interviews about this. But okay, the power of a leotard.
Okay.
Number one.
Jesus.
Wearing like Maryland and Pitt have done a very strong statement leotard to championships is great. But then you have to make sure you make a point of saying we are wearing this because. The other thing, ironic stick crowns. I have so many ideas for these.
Great. Yeah. Number
one, like Georgia, pregnant zombie doll. Perfect. You hand it to everyone that sticks. Give an interview. What's with the zombie doll? Oh, it's because they won't let this poor woman die peacefully. They're keeping her alive as an incubator. That's what we're protesting against with the zombie doll. Giant wire hanger. If you're in a state without abortion rights. A burning book as a stick crown. You get a plushie.
So we've abandoned subtlety, is what you're saying. We're past subtlety. You need aggressive action.
Where has subtlety gotten us?
Nowhere
at all. I feel like a plushy book with flames coming out of it.
Okay.
That would be. It's at college. You're learning books, all of it. Mesh that together with a stick crown. A new banned book every meet. That's another one. I feel like Stanford would do that.
Yeah. Like have the teammates all reading that book during the floor routine instead of doing the choreography of their teammate.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Or get the supporter section, like the Utah fans holding up the newspapers during the beam routine, but they're all reading that book.
Yes. I love it. And then you're helping the authors of these books too.
Mm-hmm.
The point of these things is really get as much attention, and the power of creating a viral moment is so important for this.
Mhm.
So that is something. Yeah.
Sign a trans gymnast to a scholarship, or not a scholarship, but a team agreement, put them on the roster, and then have them exhibition at the end of every lineup if you're going to throw all these exhibitions out there.
Yes.
And then we have a trans member of our team. What is the state doing to support trans rights? Are we going to travel there or just encourage more trans athletes to be able to participate in gymnastics? But that's a bigger conversation.
Yeah.
We're talking about collective protest right now.
We're trying to get a lot of attention. So anyway, there's a lot. I feel like there are things that could work, but it's going to take a couple of influential. It doesn't mean they're the most popular gymnasts. It means they have the most influence over other gymnasts in the country to come together, have an association, and fight for something. And the easiest thing will be like, what's one thing we can all agree on? Book burning. Okay, no one's burning books yet. Oh, they probably have somewhere, but the banning of books from public libraries is, I feel like, such an easy one to get started on. Or gay rights is something I feel like the majority of college gymnasts agree with. So something like that. So you have your marching orders, everyone. And if it's an alumni who helps facilitate this, even better. So thank you so much, Gymnastics fan, for this discussion. I love coming up with protest ideas and ironic discussion items for gymnastics meets. So I'm going to send this off to the Stanford gymnasts now because they are always have an ironic stick thing. So I feel like, or if it's one of those teams that really wants to get attention and they're not getting the attention they deserve, who's that team? That they're great, but they don't get enough attention? Missouri?
Well, not anymore. They made the final.
They made the final. That's true. Send these to your teams that need more attention.
Well, that's
So
what we've
anyway-
been saying about UW. We wanted University of Washington to have like a clear. We were saying a climate change identity. So
Yeah.
University of Washington. Let's go.
Yeah. Now they can just have like an anti-fascism statement. I mean, yeah. So if you would like to get a mini commission like this, it can be on anything as long as it's tangentially gymnastics related. You can join Club Gym Nerd at the world champion level at gymcastic.com. And again, thank you so much, Gymnastics fan, for your support. Should we get to some feedback this week?
I think we must.
If you have feedback for us, please send it into gymcastic@gmail.com and put feedback in the subject line. We also have a live recorded extra bonus podcast every Friday at noon Pacific or 7 p.m. GMT, where we answer your questions. And that's always linked in the show notes. So you can also join us there. But let's start with this very first one. We have a follow-up on the mini commission from last week where someone said, what floor routine should be retired like a sports team retires a jersey? That's what they're called.
Mhm.
So we have a submission. This is the great Soviet in the blue leotard, Frolova, her routine, which has the dive roll, the arched pain of a nation, chest rolls. It's so beautiful. The musicality is perfect. Is this one of the all-time classic? This is what they're trying to tell you to do with the code of points routines.
Yes.
It's
The
so
code of
many.
points is nothing if not nostalgic, and I feel like Frolova is nostalgia personified in terms of a different era of gymnastics.
Basically, they're just trying to get everyone to do Soviet gymnastics is the real point of what they're trying with the code of points. So if you want to know how to not get artistry deductions, just watch the Soviet gymnast. This routine has everything. Everything you want to see of like combining like acrobatics and dance and like the emotion, the musicality of the hitting the points, the not just standing in the corner, the depth of the quiet parts having emotion, the loud parts having an emotion. It's just so beautiful. Anyway, that routine just makes me happy. So, but I kind of don't want to retire it because I would love to see someone recreate it.
I don't need to see routines be recreated by other people.
Okay. Next letter. Thank you for my mini commission.
Kara says, I just wanted to say a big thank you for doing my mini commission this week about the physical impacts of gymnastics and about which floor music should be retired. Spencer rightly summarized the latter when he said, if someone else were to use that music, you would want to say, shut up. I laughed so hard. You're welcome. On a serious note, I very much appreciated the insights you shared on the physical impacts of gymnastics, which were far more grievous than I expected, and I expected them to be bad. As you so often do, you pulled back the curtain on a topic that is rarely discussed. I hope that the truths you shared will encourage gymnasts and coaches to seek out smarter ways to train and will, hopefully, keep them from going down the same path. Thanks again so much.
Yeah. Bow legs and curled shins. Curled shins?
Holly says, listening to your podcasts are the highlight of my week. I've noticed that many gymnasts seem to be bow-legged where their knees don't touch. To me, it seems like a higher percentage than in the general population. Is it because there is an advantage to doing gymnastics if your knees don't touch, and that's why I see so many bow-legged college and elite gymnasts? Or does it develop in athletes that train gymnastics at a high level throughout their childhood because of the training they do? On a similar note, many high-level gymnasts seem to have shins that curl up, in quotes, so that when they are doing a split jump in the air, their shins and feet are higher than their knees and thighs. It's a bit hard to put into words, but I hope you understand what I mean. Riley McCusker is a gymnast that comes to mind, and it makes her split jump so beautiful. Is this something that develops in a gymnast's body with high-level training as they are growing up, or is it natural, but we see it in elite gymnasts because it makes their gymnastics pretty, and therefore they are more successful than someone that doesn't naturally have that? Thank you for a great show and all you do.
Chicken or the egg question. Very good. So the first thing about bow legs, I don't think there's anything about gymnasts and bow legs being successful. I just think you don't often get an opportunity in life to see people in shorts smashing their legs together all the time, trying to it is not natural to touch your ankles. It's not natural to smush your ankles together all the time on a daily basis, where it's like in gymnastics, it's like, oh, if your ankle bones didn't clank together and you felt it through your entire body, then you're not doing it right. That's a deduction. So I think it's more of a...
Do you think it's just a general population there are a lot of people whose, if you put your ankles together, your knees don't touch? I'm raising my hand right now because that's me.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's just a coincidence of watching a lot of gymnastics. In terms of the curled up legs, this is a very interesting question.
Yeah, at first I was like imagining like a curly Q, and I was like, oh, that's a medical problem. If you have curly Q shins is a famous side effect in many medication commercials, and you should not have curly Q shins.
When I keep thinking about how this is described, basically he's describing a hyperextension of the knee joint so that the shin bone is raised higher when you're in absolute extension, pointing your foot. Your shin bone is higher than your femur. Some coaches train, and by train I mean push down on the knee joint in order to try to get legs to do this. I don't think that's healthy, and I think if your leg does not hyperextend, don't make it hyperextend. So it is kind of like you're just like that. That's automatically what your knee joint does, or someone has tried to push your bone and ligaments into making that happen for you. But I don't know if it's really, because I'm so against that. I refuse to watch anything where people are doing that. So I don't know if it actually works. But I feel like there's an army of rhythmic gymnasts that will be like, obviously it works. How do you think we got like this? Yeah. So that answer everything? Yeah.
I think so.
My legs naturally do that. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying they do. I was born with perfect toe point, you guys. I didn't even have to work on it. Anyway. Yeah. Which is nothing to be proud of, right? When people are like, I was born like this. Yeah. It's like, oh, you didn't have to work? Oh, you didn't have to try to change anything? Yeah, that's not something to be proud of. Anyway. Next one. GymCastic, help me find my joy.
Jessica doesn't have any opinions about that at all.
No. Not at all.
All right, the next one is from Jen. who says, I'm a 22-year-old ex-gymnast from the UK. However, I was forced to stop at the start of the pandemic due to a long period of illness that has left me unable to leave the house in almost 5 years now. After retiring, I fell out of love with gymnastics totally, and for about 3 years could not even think about it without getting upset. However, last year I found gymnastics videos increasingly popping up on my social media, and by the time Core Classic arrived last year, I could no longer resist, watch every routine, and found your amazing podcast straight after. I wanted to write you to say that since I started listening to GymCastic, I instantly became a Club Gym Nerd member, watched throughout the Olympics, and regained my total love for the sport. I've been in recovery for a while, but GymCastic has been such a big source of joy since I found it, and has even inspired me to start conditioning again and building strength from home with the aim of being able to turn my old gymnastics abilities into a newfound passion for calisthenics/handstand work and maybe one day adult gymnastics. I now watch all new GymCastic episodes and am so grateful that you have created this incredible community. You have also completely opened my eyes to the world of NCAA gymnastics, which I was aware of when I was training and knew some gymnasts who went to the US for this reason, but never understood it or followed it actively. Since discovering GymCastic, I've become obsessed with college gymnastics, watching all the meets and looking forward to college and cocktails every week. I have found the resources on GymCastic and the balance beam situation absolute godsends, and have learned so much from you guys about this very different code. However, I don't know how aware you are of this one, but I found it incredibly challenging to watch NCAA Gym in the UK.
Yeah.
I've been reliant on a few wonderful YouTube accounts, namely Number One Gym Fan and Mastapanova Fan, who upload the meets post-event, normally 1 to 4 days after. This was fine during preseason, however, it was really disappointing not to be able to watch any of the regionals or nationals in real time / on the live broadcast. I have tried several VPNs, bought multiple subscriptions for Disney Plus and ESPN, and investigated every possible way to be able to watch it easily from the UK. I have seen some people mention buying an ESPN Plus subscription through a VPN, but ultimately this has not been possible because I don't have a US credit card / payment method. I was willing to pay far more than is sensible to be able to watch it, but it is simply not possible other than YouTube to watch from the UK. I just wanted to mention it as it feels like such a shame that NCAA is so hard to watch outside of the States, even when I am willing to pay a lot of money to watch it. I was wondering if this is a problem any other listeners have been able to work around, or if you know why it is just not possible. I have seen many threads online of people struggling in the same way. I want to get prepared well in advance of January for the 2026 season. Just wanted to say a big thank you for everything you do and for reigniting my love for this amazing sport.
This makes me so happy, Jen. Thank you so much. This makes me feel, and we're wishing you the best with your health. That is very, very, very hard. Can I just recommend, if there's a circus arts class or acro around, like I fell in love with like learning how to do handstands that you could hold for, 5 minutes at a time from Chinese acro coaches. And they're like a circus arts school. That was like my slow getting back into gymnastics. So anyway, so many people feel like this, and I have had this happen too, where like I wanted to buy this like Italian pop singer's album because I did for Coop, because he like, for fact checker, because he like loved this when we're in Italy, but because it wasn't available in the US and because we didn't have an Italian credit card, I couldn't buy it, even the Italian version of it in Italy. So many people feel like this. I can reach out to ESPN and get an update for them on what if they're considering creating a plan for international viewers to watch or be able to subscribe, because it is so frustrating, and I understand, and it would be great if they made this available.
I know. For all of the problems of the Pac-12, the Pac-12 network did have an international stream YouTube viewing option for those meets. Yep. And then they were like, oh, we've managed money, so inferiorly, all the schools are leaving and we're not a conference anymore, basically.
Yep. You may, obviously I cannot endorse this, but you may, if you look around, maybe on Reddit or on some of the socials, and you say, is there anyone live streaming this on a platform like Twitch or Discord, you may find people doing that without a VPN. So it exists. And if you look around, you will find it. I mean, is it really stealing if you can't even get it in another country? That's what I'm saying. Is it? It's still kind of.
I won't judge you.
Yeah, we won't judge you for it, though. Yeah. So, We are going to see you guys on Friday at noon Pacific, 7 GMT for Behind the Scenes live Q&A show for our Club Gym Nerd members. So we'll have that, and you'll be able to listen to all of it on your beautiful holiday. If you're in the US, it's a holiday coming up. So we'll see you there. And we are very excited for Behind the Scenes. It's honestly my favorite part of the week. I look forward to Behind the Scenes. I totally enjoy it because I can talk about all the random things that are on my mind, and then we answer questions
Mostly
about
pottery.
gymnastics,
Yeah.
which I have a lot. It's always pottery, uteruses,
Yeah.
gynecologists not understanding pain. Even how can you have a uterus and not be like, oh, we're just going to do this. We're going to take a chunk out of your cervix. You don't need any painkillers. We're going to insert this thing into your uterus. You don't need painkillers. What?
You guys are
Anyway,
getting
there's a lot of that.
free. This is free Behind the Scenes
Right.
for everyone right
This
now.
is
It's bonus
if you
time.
rant
If you
about
like
medical
that,
care.
join us on Fridays.
Okay. So anyway, we'll see you guys on Friday for Behind the Scenes. Until then, please remember to take off on gay, split on rights, and thanks for living. Thanks for listening. I'm already ready for the break. We will see you on Friday for Behind the Scenes. Thanks for listening.